Today we're looking at SamAccess 2016, Project 1A. So let's do the first thing first. File, save as, and just make sure you save it with change 1 at the end to 2 and click save. And just make sure you enable the content. And let's go to the step number 1 here, project step number 1. So here we want to create a new table in a datasheet view with the following options. Rename the default primary key ID to state and change the data type to short text. So let's go and click create. And once you create, we are going to use datasheet view. So that is using this option here, table. I'm going to click on the table here. And this is called the datasheet view. And in this one, we're going to go and change the ID to state. So once you select this, it should take you automatically to this menu here, or to this ribbon. And then we're going to change this ID to state. All right. So this can be done by clicking on name and caption. Just change this to state, click OK, and that's changed. And we also need to change the data type to short text. So by default, it's auto number. We're going to change this to short text. All right, so we're done with this step here. We're moving on to the B. Change the field size of the state to field field to 2. So field size is located over here. So field size 255 default field size. We're going to change this to 2 because that's just 2 characters we want to store in that. And the next step is you're going to add a new field name, state name. So it's easy. Just click on this button here. And then we're going to this is going to be short text. We're going to select the data type and give it a name. So here the name is going to be state name and no space in between, right? So when you're giving the field name, it's recommended that you don't give any spaces in between these 2 words. All right, so we have created the required number of field. I'm going to the next step here. So we're going to save the table and name it states, and then do not close it. So to save the table, I'm going to right click over here on the tab and then click save. And I'm going to call that states. Now we're ready to move to the second step. We're going to add 4 records as shown in the table 1 below. If necessary, resize the state name field. So this table gives you the record that you need to add. So I'm going to start with the first one, ID. Just be careful about typos. The SAM will say that you did not complete a task if you have entered the words incorrectly or you have a spelling mistake. All right, so we are done entering the records, 4 records as required. Save and close the states table. So we're going to save it again, save from here, and then we're going to close the table. So we're done with step number 2. Moving on to step number 3. Open addrep table in datasheet view. Add a new field following the postal code with the field name, date hired, and date and time data type. So I'm going to right click on add rep table and then select open. So you can even just double click on it. It's going to open in the datasheet view by default. So here I'm going to add one more column. So to do that, you can just click to add, click on the button here, and then I'm going to give the data type as date and time. So it's over here. And the name is date hired. Okay, so that is done. And once you have added that field, you can just close the table. All right, I'm going to right click, close the table. That's done. Step number 3 is done. Moving on to step number 4, open billboard table in design view. So you have to open this in a design view. Previously, we were opening in datasheet view, and make the following changes. So billboard table, and I'm going to use design view to open it. So in the design view, we're going to change the data type for the height. So that is over here. Change the data type to from short text to number. So select that, done. And then change the field size to single. So this is the field size here. By default, it's long integer when it is number. Now, remember when this is short text, it gave you allowed you to enter the field size like 2, or by default it's 255. But when it is number, it allows you to, it has some fixed set of sizes like long integer, and so on. So single and double is real numbers for real numbers, and then it gives single precision and double precision. So we're going to select single here. So go ahead and select single. And then change the decimal places property to auto. So that the next one here is decimal places property from auto to 1. We can just change it to 1 here. So you can select 1. So that is done. All right. So next thing, we're going to step number 5. With billboard table still open in the design view, we're going to add daily effective circulation for deck column here. So in the description option, we are going to give daily. Just again, be careful about spelling mistake. So if there is a spelling error, Sam would say that you did not complete this task. Circulation, that is done. And that we're done with step number 5. Moving on to step number 6. With billboard table still open in the design view, change the field size property for location field to 75. So location field. So location field is over here. So we are going to change the field size to 75. Then we're going to save the changes. When you say save changes, it's going to warn you that you're reducing the size of this location from 255 to 75. So because of this, there may be a loss, but we know that this particular table or this column doesn't have any records which has more than 75 characters. So we're going to just accept it. So continue anyway, say yes. So that's done. So we're done with step number 6. We want to just save it and close it. Save it and then go ahead and close it. And the next step, step number 7, import data from Excel support file. So which is, you should have this available to you from SAM site. All you got to do is download it from the SAM site. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the information given in this Excel worksheet and then add those records in the Excel worksheet into your advertisers table here. So advertisers table doesn't have anything, no records at all. So we're going to append the records from that Excel worksheet. So let's do this. We already have advertisers table. We just want to import the records for that. So to do this, you can go and click on external data, and then we're going to click on new data source and file Excel. So we're going to take it from Excel worksheet. So make sure you select Excel, and you need to select the file that you need to point to the file that you downloaded. So probably you have it saved in your downloads folder if you have already downloaded from Sam. So go ahead, browse, and then I'm going to go into downloads folder. So that's the file it's looking for. But just make sure you have not renamed it or there is no one at the end. If you have downloaded multiple times, you might see a one at the end. So be careful that you did not download multiple times. So just make sure the exact name is matching. Okay, I'm going to click and then click open. Okay, so I have pointed to the file source. The next thing is you need to tell Access whether you want to import it into a new table or you want to add the data to an existing table, which is append option. So I'm going to select the second option here, and I'm going to select the name of the table, which is advertisers. So once you've done that, you can click OK. So this, yeah, so it's warning you that advertisers table is currently open. So this can happen if you have opened the table, you've looked at it before. So do you want to save changes and close the table? Say yes. Okay. All right. So now it's giving you just a preview of how it's going to append the data. So everything looks okay to me, like advertisers ID, name, and everything. Let's just fall into the places correctly. It's all good. So click next. And then we need to name this table. So the table name, yeah, so that's going to be the default name. Yeah, so that's we're just going to import to the advertisers table. Leave the default and click finish. Then it's asking you whether you want to import. Now, if this is something you're doing again and again, you can save the import step. But for this project, we don't want to save the import steps. So leave it unchecked, click close. All right, so we're done with step number 7. Moving on to step number 8. So we are opening the advertisers table in the design view and then make the following changes. Make the field primary, make field the primary key, which is advertisers ID, and then change the caption property to add ADV ID. So let's do that. Right click, design view, and then we're going to make this a primary key. You can notice that this is not a primary key yet. So I've selected it, and then I'm gonna select primary key, the design ribbon. Make sure you select it from here, and then click primary key, done. And then we're going to change the caption. So the caption is what is shown when you're viewing it in the datasheet view. So we're going to change this to ADV ID as caption. All right, so now we are going to save the table and close the table. So go ahead, right click on the tab, save, and close the table. All right, so we're done with step number 8. Moving into step number 9. Open billboard table in datasheet view. Okay, so billboard table, you can just double click. It's going to open it in the datasheet view. Navigate through the third record. The third record is this one. Just make sure the ID matches. So the ID here is LHBU01, so that matches. And then we're going to go and change type here to poster. So we're done with that, and then we're going to go to the second record and then change this to digital. Okay, so that's step number 9. Moving on to step number 10. So here we're going to close this table. Let's close it and then move on to step number 10. Open billboard listing query in the design view. So listing query, and it's under query, it's a query. You can right click and then select on the design view. Now in this one, we are going to add a criteria. So let's say we want to list the billboards in a certain state, right? So we're going to give it a criteria here. So the criteria is we want to list the state which matches this pattern, WA, right? So within double quotation, we're going to say WA, and then so that's our criteria. So once you have added that, so just make sure it's in criteria row. It's under state. It's WA, so that's what we are looking for, the pattern that we're trying to match. So once you have given that, you can go and run the query to check if it is working properly. So when you run the query, you can see that it is showing that particular state that we put in the criteria. Okay, so it's basically filtering and showing one particular state. So every time you open this query, it's going to show this state, billboards in this state. All right. So that's step number 10. So now we'll close the query, save it, close the query, save, and then close it. And the next one is use the simple query wizard to create a query based on advertiser table. So we're going to create a query, click create, using query wizard, and it's a simple query wizard, so that is already selected. Click OK. And we're going to create this query from advertiser table. So you need to select the table, make sure it's table, advertiser, select it. And then we're going to use all the fields in the advertiser table. So click select all, and then we'll select all the fields, click next. And the name of this query, we're going to leave it the default, which is advertiser query. And then we're going to finish. So you can see that based on the advertiser table, we have created the query. We did not give any criteria. It's simply the same as the way you view the table. It gives all the data that is in the advertiser table. So we're going to close this at this point. That's as per the instruction here. Close it. Okay. And we're moving on to the next one, step number 12. Create a simple form for advertiser table. Save form as advertiser form. So this is very easy. It's a simple form. So go ahead and click on advertiser, step number 1. And step number 2, you're going to click on form. Now this would create a simple form for advertiser based on the table you had selected, right? And then we're going to save it. Okay, so when you're saving it, we're going to call that advertiser form. Click OK, and then we're going to close it. So we're done with step number 12. Let's go into step number 13. Open AdRep update form, which is over here in the form view. So there are different views here. So you can right click, you can see that there's layout view and then design view. And then when you just click open, the default view is the form view. I'm going to click on this. So we have the form view and navigate to the third record. So to navigate to the third record, you can use this navigation bar here right at the bottom. So I'm going to click 1, twice. Yeah, that's already third record there. And I'm going to change the address as given in the instruction. So the instruction says, yeah, the address number is correct. It's KS02. We're going to change the address to 90. So just again, be careful about it's going to be a, yeah. So let's, I think you don't have to give comma. I could be wrong. Yeah, so that should be the address. And once you have changed the address, you can close the form. So you can close the form, and that's done. Okay, and we're moving on to step number 14. Step number 14, create a simple report based on the advertiser table. So if it's a simple report, it's pretty easy. So you select the advertiser table, and then you go to create option, and then you click report. Simple as that. Okay, I'm going to click report, and that creates a report. That's a simple report based on advertiser. Okay, so we're going to save it. Just right click on the tab, save, and then we're going to call that advertiser form. I'm sorry, report, and then click OK, and then you can close it. So that is a simple report based on advertiser table. So we're done with step number 14, going on to step number 15. All right, in step number 15, we are going to make changes to an existing report, which is Idaho, Wyoming billboard. We're going to right click on that, and then we're going to open that in the layout view. Okay, so we have the layout view, and in the layout view, we are going to modify to match the figure 1 that is given to you, which is right over here. All right, so one thing that we want to fix is number 1, we need to delete type and facing column. So that's, let's start with type, selected type. What I'm going to do is right click on it, just right click. That's going to give you these options. And here I'm going to click delete column. Similarly, I'm going to right click, right mouse click, or in your trackpad, right the second button, and then you can delete column. So I deleted type and facing column. Next step is change the column heading for the ID column and deck column to what is shown in the figure. So the ID column is given as billboard ID. So we can change that, double click on it, simply double click on that. It would, and then you can highlight and then change it. Again, make sure there's a space there. Be careful about typos at this point. If you make a mistake there, again, Sam will say, you did not attempt that step, then give you an error there. Let's do the same thing over here. Daily effective circulation. Circulation. There you go. All right. Okay, so that step is done. Moving on to C. Sum the values in the EC deck column if necessary. Expand the size of the total control so it displays it completely. So we want to give a sum at the end. So you can do that easily by just make sure it's selected, and then you can click total here. You are in the design option, design menu, click totals, and then click sum. So that's going to add sum here. You can see that it's cut off in the middle. We're going to fix that. all you got to do is select that control. It's a control, and then you can use this as you move your mouse. You will see that it changes into a double direction, bi-directional arrow there. So I'm going to click and drag it down to show the entire total, right? So that's showing perfectly. We have added the sum, and moving on to the last step there. Change the report title from Idaho, Wyoming billboard to Idaho, Wyoming billboard circulation. So this is pretty easy. So double click on that, and you can say billboard, circulation, and do not use, do not type the period there after that. All right, so we're done with all of that. Yeah, this should show the current date. That's okay, no problem there. We're going to save and exit. Okay, now just make sure you have all the report as shown there, and you can go ahead and submit on SAM. Good luck. Thank you.